everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chef AJ.
Sorry about that. Is my double talk. Starting again, introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Now, before I introduce today's guest, let me tell you why I'm so excited about this episode. So I've been vegan for over 44 years. I became vegan when I was 17 years old. And before I was vegan, I had a favorite dessert. It's called tiramisu. And when I became vegan, I had a favorite dessert, tiramisu. And for the 2 years that I was exclusively a raw food vegan, I had a favorite dessert called tiramisu. And in the last 10 years, my diet has not been raw. It's been plant exclusive, but it's been free of pretty much any processed food, no sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, or salt. I call it sophistry. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people that can't really have chocolate because it's a migraine trigger. But there was one time in the last 10 years that I would have what you might call a little slip, a little relapse. And that was because of a raw vegan tiramisu. It is literally the one thing on the planet that it's my kryptonite. I cannot resist it, but today's guests are going to make it extremely healthy. Even if you're not a raw fooder yourself, what's so great about raw desserts is they can be enjoyed by everyone, whether you're vegan or raw, because they're so healthy. They're made out of food. And to make it even better, today's guests are broadcasting from Italy, which is where tiramisu was created. One of the guests has been on the show before. His name is Chef Ocean, and he made some incredibly decadent raw vegan donuts and competed in an Iron Chef against Chef James Sant. I want to call him Van Sant. I don't know why. I can link to those below. But we're also being joined by another wonderful raw vegan chef today, Chef Victoria. I know that was a long intro, but they're extraordinary people because they rescue bunny rabbits. Please welcome them to the show. It's so great to see you. I can't believe you're doing this from Italy. I can't believe you're raw in Italy. Pizza, pasta. How do you eat raw in Italy?
Well, we've got a secret, and we came during persimmon season. So we brought some persimmons to show off. This is how we've been raw in Italy, is we are getting these cacao persimmons that are just incredibly juicy on the inside. I'm just going to bite into one here so you can see it. They're just like bursting. So That's how we do it.
They are so fantastic. And we also have lots of other delicious fruit here. They grow things here, and the olives we have found is just amazing. They drop to the ground, and then they sun dried, and the bitterness just go away, and they are like caramelized, and they are so delicious. And we find different nice.
There's two kinds of persimmons, aren't there? There are two different kinds, right?
The Japanese persimmons, there's Fuyu and Hachiya, but here they actually have all kinds of different persimmons. We went to a arboretum that was in Pisa, and we actually found wild persimmons that were about this big. These are called kakitipo. There's another one called kakemele. So Italy has all different persimmons than what we get in the US.
Wow, because some are supposed to be harder and some are supposed to be eaten softer, right?
Yeah, I think that all persimmons should be eaten when they're softer. I mean, they can be eaten crunchy when they are these small Fuji persimmon, but they are more delicious when they really ripen up and become softer. You have to wait a few weeks sometimes, but it's totally worth it. Yeah. And the persimmon we have here, they are so juicy, and they are just perfect, and they sell them very, very soft. So we have actually problem to carry them home with us because they just splash. So we used to have a big box so we can place the persimmon in the box so they don't fall apart.
That is so cool. I love persimmons. I was recently teaching cooking at Rancho La Puerta in Mexico, and they were out of something that we needed for the recipe. I don't remember if it was papaya or mango, and we substituted persimmons, and it was even better.
The other thing we found is that we've kind of adopted the Italian method of preparing food, which is many Italian dishes only have 3, 4, 5 ingredients in them. So we've found the tomatoes here are absolutely fantastic. I mean, we do get good tomatoes in California, but the Italian tomatoes, there's some low acid tomatoes. I mean, we actually went to the farmer's market in almost every town that we've gone to, Rome, Florence, Venice, Pisa, and that's the first thing we do is we check out all the tomato vendors. The grapes are incredible here. There's so many variety of grapes and varieties of olives, but the really fun thing is that we came during persimmon season, and we also came during, as we mentioned, persimmon season. And we're at the tail end of grape season. So we've just been having fun walking in the forest and through all the old little towns, and there's a few little villages that are built around castles, where the castles date back to the 1400s or even the 1100s, and the orchards there, especially the orange trees, are still thriving. And so we've been able to find all kinds of crazy citrus that we'd never imagined before. So that's how we're able to stay raw here, is just the food is over the top delicious here, and we've been able to forage a lot of our food too.
That is incredible. First, I just want to thank Becky for the super chat donation. People are commenting on what a good looking couple you are. And I'm wondering, were you guys both raw vegan chefs and then got together, or were you a couple and then both decided to become raw vegans?
No, we both are raw vegan chefs, and you're from California and I am from Sweden. And then we just find each other on Instagram actually. So we just started to contact each other, and yeah, and now we are here. And yeah, the whole story is actually on my YouTube channel.
Oh my God, I'll have to check that out. Now, Becky wants to know if you won't mind telling us where in Italy are you? And Stephanie wanted to know if you live there now.
We are in, let's see, right now we're in an area called Tuscany. So that's north, it's just west of Pisa, between Florence and Pisa. We spent 2 weeks in Rome, and we actually have been corresponding through Instagram and Messenger and doing video calls for the last 9 months. And this is the first time we've met in person, and we've been here for a month, and we only have a few days left until the end of this vacation. And so, yeah, the area of Tuscany, Victoria's been here. She used to model, and so she had a quick visit to Tuscany about 10 years ago. And so we decided to come back here, and the fresh air and the mountains are just amazing here. But we did have a really fun time in Rome too.
That's incredible. It's funny. If people are just joining us now, they might not know that you guys are both part of a really incredible bundle called the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, where there's over 55 ebooks with like thousands of recipes valued at over $3,200 that's selling for $50. I'm a contributor as well. And there's like 200 other lives that people can watch this week if they want to see all the chefs. I'm only able to do 13 of you guys on my shows, but I've been watching a couple of the lives, and last night I was watching, it just popped up, it was Chef Ian and Matt from Raw Intuition. And one of the things I noticed with, and again, I can't speak for every raw foodist because I don't know every raw foodist, but the ones that I'm meeting and having on my shows, you guys all seem to be really happy. And what I notice about you guys is, like, I don't hear any raw fooders complaining about how hard it is, or how they don't like the food. Yet in my working with people, trying to get them to be vegan and working with people with food addictions, all I do is hear complaints about how hard it is and how they don't like the food. And I'm wondering, is that part of the magic of raw food, that because you really kind of have all the addictive things that are in food are not in the raw food diet?
Yeah. And I mean, you will become happy when you see these colorful fruit and vegetables, and when they are not cooked, they really have amazing colors. You saw the persimmon here, for example, the one we opened. I mean, my eyes is just staring at it, and I can't stop smiling. And we have so much delicious food here, so yeah, it's just incredible. And
Chef Victoria, well, not everybody, but I know Chef Ocean's story because he's been on the show a couple of times. How did you find out about the raw food diet, and when did you start? And in Sweden, the only other person in Sweden that I know raw is Chris Kendall.
Wow. So I'm the second one. Wow. Yeah, I'm started out, it was many years ago, and I started pretty slowly. I took away like things. First I become like vegetarian, and then I took out egg and cheese, and then I started to eat raw food. And why I started to do this, it was because of some health problems I had, and I wanted to get a better skin, better digestion, and more energy, and I was sick very often. So I really felt that I have to do something, and I have tried out so many things, and this was actually the thing that helped me, and this that motivates me to stay on this diet.
Wow. Well, I will say that every raw food person and chef that I've been meeting, I mean, you guys are so passionate about it, and you're so dedicated to it, and I just really admire it. And you love your food. That's the main thing. You're not complaining about how boring it is, and
Well, the one thing we found is that when you're eating raw food or live food, the flavor is not dulled down by cooking. And you mentioned, is it hard to do raw food? It can be as hard as you want it to be. So the Raw Vegan Bundle has lots of gourmet recipes in it, but it also has lots of simple recipes. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I find that even getting the same apples from the same tree at different times is, they all taste different. So it's almost like we're now relieved of the fact that we don't have to really worry about flavor anymore. We don't have to manipulate the flavors in cooking the food. One of our favorite things to do is go out to an old olive grove, and we found a few of them here in Tuscany. There's many, many olive trees. I mean, they're all over the place. And they're almost like Starbucks in LA or something. There's just olive trees everywhere you look. And we'll go and find the sun-dried olives that are underneath the trees and taste them. And that's like an entire afternoon for us, is to go try all the different olives from the different trees. And that's why it's so easy, because what you get in the stores is, that's unripe fruit. But once you are on the raw vegan diet for a while, it really becomes passionate about finding the source of the food. Moving to California, we came to Italy because of the excellent food here. And that's what keeps it exciting, at least for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that is something that can be a bit challenging when you live in colder climates. For me, Sweden, for example, the food is not like stimulating, because the half year I can't really foraging like fruit and berries. But when it's summer and when it's autumn, we have delicious berries and roses and apples. I think Sweden has the best apples in the world, for example, and we have so many different varieties you can try out, and plums, and the rest of the year you have to be creative, and of course you can import delicious food too. So I found it works pretty good, and I really like to be in the forest and look for wild food, wild greens, and make cool stuff of that. And
I didn't know you could eat olives off the tree. I've always thought they had to be cured.
Oh, I have a whole series of videos about how I learned not to eat olives straight off the tree. They do need to be cured, but no one told me that before I came to Italy. So I tried an olive off the tree, and it tasted horrible. I did find that if I wait until they're ripe, they drop off the tree, and then they get sun cured. So that means the tannins are absorbed by the olive, and they're dissipated by the sun. That's actually a great alternative to salt cured or lye cured or oil cured olives. And the flavor of it's fantastic. So you're right, the curing process needs to happen. I found out the hard way, but now whenever we go to an olive tree, that's where we're looking, is on the ground, not up in the tree.
Yeah, I used to do it in the dehydrator, but when I have the sun, it's just fantastic. I mean, it probably takes lots of time to just to let the olives lay on the ground, but they are so delicious. The sun really caramelizes them, and they are like, when they are a little bit of soft but still not like bitter, they are just perfect. And a little bitterness in there, it can actually be good.
I just want to thank Sherry Likes Fruit for the super chat donation. And Mandy wants to know how your bunnies are. And what I was just thinking is, one of the best things about your diet is you get to eat with your bunnies. I mean, you guys eat the same diet, basically.
Yeah. So my bunnies are doing great. They're staying with a friend of mine right now, and they have two bunny buddies that they get to hang out with. So bunnies are really social creatures. They've been staying with my friend for the last month while we're in Italy. I do videos with her all the time, so I get to see, my friend shows me how comfortable my bunnies are with, exploring their new living room. And they're still house bunnies, they're very well behaved. So they've been on their best behavior and not chewing any of the furniture, not chewing any of the cords at my friend's house. And of course, they get the best food at my friend's house too, because they have a farm. So they're getting fresh apple sticks, they get dandelion greens and kale. So I am actually a little afraid that my bunnies don't want to come back home with me, because I think they're getting a little spoiled at my friend's house.
Oh boy, that's great. Well, how long have you been doing desserts? Like, I don't want to say it's your specialty, but it kind of seems to be, just because they're so outstanding, the ones that you do. They're so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been specializing in doing desserts, mostly because people really respond to it, and that's kind of the gateway to raw foods, is, can you make really good desserts? I grew up always having dessert after a meal, so having the sweet dessert was kind of like the goal of the meal. And I just love that I can reach anybody with my desserts. Actually, Victoria has some excellent desserts too. She's got a couple recipe books already out, and she makes hers out of all the things that she finds in Sweden. So it's really fun for us to get together and compare how I make desserts versus how she does. So what are some of your favorites?
Oh, some of my favorite. It actually chocolate trifle I have in a bundle, a recipe I have in the raw vegan bundle. And that is a chocolate trifle with sun-dried tomatoes in there. So it's very odd. And that is something I really love to experiment with, like having odd ingredients in desserts. And sometimes I can, I mean, chocolate and celery can also be very good together. Just the saltiness is so perfect. And I used to add like salt in my truffles and in my chocolate things, and then I must figure out what else can I add. And sun-dried tomatoes, wow, that was just so good with the right combination to cacao and or carob, you can use that too, and with sweetness, it just tastes amazing. Yeah, so that is my favorite thing, I think. Yeah.
Do you guys have equipment with you to do any uncooking?
That's an excellent question. So our book that we're working on right now, while we're in Italy, is no equipment because the Airbnbs here in Italy don't have food processors. They don't have Cuisinarts. We're going to be making the tiramisu today with just knives and a cutting board. And as you mentioned, some people think the raw vegan diet can be hard, and there's another myth that the raw vegan diet has to involve buying $600 blenders, food processors, juicers. So we've actually been living the last month on making everything just by hand. Very few. Let's see, I have a couple special tools here.
Yeah.
Victoria actually bought these for me for my birthday. So this is a spike, like I think you recognize that. It's kind of a crinkle cut. And then I have this is how I make my zucchini noodles. It's like a shredder. So this is the most advanced tools that we're making. And we've been on a challenge right now to not use any electricity. So that's what we're going to show today.
Well, that is really raw food at its most basic.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And I mean, when you don't blend foods, you don't get the air in there, so it doesn't oxidize. So I found it out to be very good to not use tools, and we get more flavor in it. And when you do everything by hand, you get more love in it too. And we was actually thinking about when we come to Italy, maybe we should buy a simple blender or so. But then we just, no, we can live without it. We try to live without it. And then we came out with so much delicious recipes. So we just, wow, we have to make a book of this.
That's very cool because it doesn't rely on dehydrators, blenders, food processors. So that is really the true definition, isn't it?
We're using the original blender, which is right here.
Yes,
that's true. I've heard Dr. Esselstyn say that because he's not a fan of smoothies. He goes, you already have 32 of the best juicers and blenders right here. So, before you start the recipe, would you like to say what your contribution to the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle is in case people want to check that out?
My book is named The Spice of Life. And in this book, you find gourmet raw vegan recipes that is not like only salads. It's more like things I use spices and real dishes like raw vegan tagine and tandoori and different pad thai and real meals. So I have taken inspiring from the whole world and really tried out different cool flavor combinations like chocolate and sun-dried tomatoes also in the dessert, and even spiced up a strawberry sauce and do things a little bit more special. So my raw food recipes in that book is they should be very exciting. Yeah, that's my goal.
Her book is called The Spice of Life. Yeah. I came up with a raw vegan muscle building meal plan. So my book is called Muscle Fuel, 20 gourmet recipes to maximize amino acid absorption. I try to bust the protein myth. So I worked with a vegan bodybuilder who wanted to eat more raw. He had macros that he gave to me, which were very aggressive, but he wanted between 18 to 24% protein on every serving. So I worked for about 6 months, did research, and my recipe book is the result of all that research. That it's the macros are somewhere around 20% protein, 35% fat at most and 45% carbohydrates. It varies by recipe, but I came up with a sausage recipe, a taco recipe, burger. I have some Indian food in there, and I even have my bread. That's excellent, high protein food. So it is really possible to build muscle on a raw vegan diet. In fact, it's almost impossible not to. And if you really want to get aggressive with your raw vegan diet, you can get the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. Check out my book and follow the meal plan, and make sure you exercise, and you'll build muscle without any effort.
Well, think about it. When people, for 44-year vegan, can you imagine how many times I've gotten the question, where do you get your protein? But when you think of all the herbivorous animals, right? They're not just vegan, they're raw vegan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're getting the source of their protein from amino acids rather than protein. So we tend to make pets out of the carnivorous animals, and we then tend to eat the herbivorous animals, as a culture. And the reason is the herbivorous animals, as you said, are the ones that are actually building the muscle. Many of them simply eat grass, and they're getting their amino acids. So the recipes I have in my book are heavily reliant on sprouts. I found that peas and cauliflower are actually very high in protein. So getting a mixture of pre-built proteins and available amino acids from lentils, chickpea and mung bean sprouts, sunflower sprouts is some of my favorites. That will put you on track to almost effortlessly build muscle.
And in order to do a good workout, you really need energy also. I was an active badminton player, actually elite badminton player, and I worked out 7 to 10 times a week. And when I switched my diet, I got more energy, and more energy, it means like I can do better when I play and when I work out. And when I can do better, I get stronger. So so that goes really hand in hand with the raw vegan diet. Yeah.
Great. Well, would you guys like to start the recipe?
Yes.
Of
Yes.
course.
And we're going to introduce the ingredients first. So Victoria's going to do the cake on the bottom. And so I'll be doing the frosting. And because we're in Italy, we're going to do a triple layer tiramisu. So we're going to have a green layer, a white layer, and a red layer. And this is our secret ingredient. So if you want to try this at home, you can get this in the grocery store. But we found out the hard way that if you try to pick prickly pear cactus with your fingers, you're going to regret it. But this is going to be our red layer.
Yeah.
And the red layer is commonly known as pitaya, dragonfruit, prickly pear cactus fruit. So I'll be slicing this open and using this to do the red coloring. And then the main portion of our cream is going to be using bananas. So we're having ripe bananas. And then to make the white layer, I'll be using shredded coconut. And then another surprise ingredient, which is one of Victoria's favorite ingredients for the green layer, is barley grass juice powder. And that's going to be our natural coloring for the red cream. And then we have a preference as to we have a choice of to use cacao or carob. You mentioned you have a cacao sensitivity, so
I do, yeah. I wish I didn't, but I do.
just for you, we're actually using carob in our recipe today. So
That's fantastic. I could talk about carob because I don't think a lot of people know what it is, because it's not exactly a chocolate substitute, because it's actually a fruit.
Right.
Yeah, it grows on trees, and I have picked my own carob pods when I was in Spain, and they are just so delicious to just chew on. So they grow on trees. Like, yeah, I wish I had one here, but I didn't. And yeah, so they make powder of that, and often they are roasted when you buy them, and sometimes they are raw too. And both taste very delicious. And yeah, and there are no caffeine in carob, and it's less fat if you compare with cacao. And yeah, it's more sweet and like a caramelized, yeah, a little bit of coffee touch, and also a bit of cacao flavor in there. Not cacao, but chocolate. Yeah, milk chocolate. You can say milk chocolate. Yeah.
And no caffeine either. So
No.
carob is caffeine free.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. Terrific.
Yes, me too, actually.
So
yes.
Why don't you introduce the crust?
Yeah, the crust, we are using carob instead of cacao. But if you are using, if you will make this recipe, you can use cacao instead. If you want, this up to you. And then we have almonds also that we have soaked. Then we also have raisins, and they are not soaked. And why we're not soaking this is because these are a little bit wet, so it will be too wet if we soak both. And then we will sweeten it a little bit extra with medjool dates. So why we have raisins here is because it feels like it's very Italian, because we have so many grapes here, and yeah, we really have to have raisins in this recipe, and almost also they go with here, so that's a perfect nut to use. So yeah, I guess I will start. So what I will start to do is that I will whop the almonds and the raisins in small pieces. So here you can use a food processor if you want, but we don't have a food processor, so I will make it by hand today, and that works perfectly.
And so, as we mentioned, we're going to be using our basic tools. So this plastic bag has been one of our friends. We've actually made pesto with this, and I wanted to show that off as well.
Oh yeah.
So we do have a gourmet recipe book coming out very soon, later this year, hopefully before Christmas, about how we did everything without electricity. So we found these amazing mushrooms here in Italy, and then using the same technique that Victoria is showing right now, which is the chopping things, and then you'll see her secret technique with the bag and a coffee cup. You can probably guess what that is. We made pesto stuffed mushrooms, which is some of the Genovese basil that we found here, soaked almonds, and placed in these really amazing white cap mushrooms that we found, and then of course decorated with a cute little tomato on top. So this is going to be our dinner for tomorrow.
Yes, I'm really looking forward for that little starter for dinner tomorrow. Yeah. So I have popped up the almonds and the raisins a little bit. That doesn't have to be so much, but a little bit like that. And now I will place this in a bag. And I think I want to stand up while I'm doing this actually. So you can see my legs and watch ocean and the little bag here. Let's see. So now I have it here in my bag, and I will take paprika, and I will just mash it and try to not use my computer. So this is the method I made instead of a food processor, and by doing this you don't get the air in here, so it will actually be more flavorful by doing this technique. So I actually have a recipe on my YouTube channel, Vegan Tiramisu, how we make tahini without toast, and it's quite a similar technique we use, but we have a cooking pot instead, so that works also.
And Chef AJ, you remember the classic rolling pin, right? You remember the cartoons where they run after with the rolling pin, shaking the rolling pin. So that's another technique that we could use. We actually haven't found any rolling pins here, but this is just, we could use a hand grinder if we wanted to, and just grind everything, through one of those old sausage grinders, which you can really pick up secondhand.
You wonder how people ate back in the day, right? I mean, there was one point where we didn't even have fire, but even so, people didn't have the tools. I mean, we're so spoiled, today.
Yeah, in fact, I think that's how grain was originally milled, is they would have two stones, and so one would grind on top of the other one, a very large stone, and then they would have either horses or men running around grinding it. So this technique that we're using right here, of course, you can grab your food processor, plug it in, and then you'll probably do it in about 3 or 4 minutes. But it's also really fun because we've been having, like building up muscle. As I mentioned, my book is all about building up muscle. And so this is really a workout for the shoulders, really get into the food, make sure that it's all browned properly. And it comes out a lot more crunchy as well. So Victoria's just finishing up making the meal. So there it is. There's an almond and raisin meal.
Yes. So what I will do now is that I will place this in a bowl here. So let's see. And then I will take dates, medjool dates. See how juicy and good this is. And place it here also. And don't forget to take out the pits. And then I will have my carob powder also in here. That will make it a little bit like chocolatey. Because I am from Sweden, sometimes when I use carob, I also take something bitter in there. And I am so in love with dandelion greens. And I have noticed that if I mix in some dandelion greens with the carob, I get the bitter flavor that chocolate, that cacao have, but not the carob. So by combining the carob with something that is bitter, I get more of a chocolate flavor. But now I am in Italy, and we have found dandelion greens here, but it should be best to have a powder or dried dandelion greens because it can oxidize otherwise. And oxidized dandelion greens is not so good in flavor. No. So what I do now is that I just
Oh, I'm so sorry. We have a question. We have a question from Julie who's watching live, and I get this question a lot during Raw Food Weeks. I would like to do more raw food, but I get so cold. Why is that, you think? And what can people that get cold do about it?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So in fact, you've asked the right person. When I first went raw, I was so excited about my raw diet that I just wanted to live outside all the time. My connection with nature became so strong that I literally quit my lease, put my things in storage, and started just living outside. I slept outside in a community garden. And then when it started getting colder, I stayed outside. And this was in Pennsylvania. It started snowing. And it was kind of the reverse frog in boiling water. As you heard, like the frog doesn't notice the water is boiling. My body actually slowly adjusted to the cold. And I had some techniques that I used. And one thing that I found is that eating warm foods, and this is often what people rely on in the wintertime, is actually doing the opposite of that. So when you have a hot tea or a hot soup or hot foods, your body actually has to cool it down to 98.5 degrees or body temperature. So what I learned through gardening is that there's some greens that actually are exothermic. Exothermic meaning that as you digest them or as they decompose, they actually give off heat. Kale being one of them, sweet yams being another one of them. I also augmented with ginger, which opens up capillaries. I used garlic, hot peppers was another one, which also opens up the cardiovascular system. So the cleansing process is often very energy intensive, and that means that the body will divert, as you go onto a raw foods diet, some of the energy toward doing repair work. And that means there's less energy for heating the body. It's an interesting phenomenon. I've actually noticed, and I've researched this, and other people have noticed this too. When I go running, sometimes I get a cold belly. It's really strange. And I was wondering, my stomach would actually start getting really cold. And that's because the process of running was diverting blood to my extremities and diverting less energy. So that's the reason, is that you only have so much energy available. And especially when you're switching to a higher vibration diet, that energy gets diverted to the cleansing process or other processes of doing repair and rebuilding. And that leaves less energy for heating you up. But you can counteract that by eating lots of kale, lots of wintergreens, eating ginger. And you still, if you still want to eat a warm soup, the raw food diet is not a cold diet. You can still eat warm soups. Just keep the temperature below 42 degrees Celsius or 115 Fahrenheit.
What I have noticed also is that when I eat cooked food, I get bad circulation. And that is because cooked food is very dehydrating for the body. And when the body is dehydrating, the blood doesn't move so easy. So I easily get like cold feet and cold hands. So when I eat raw food, I have so much better circulation. But I can understand when people feel cold because the raw food diet is more liquid. So that is something you have to get used to. But on the other hand, in the long run, you probably get more circulation in your body, and that makes you feel warmer, actually. So when it's winter time in Sweden, I am more motivated to eat raw food than I am in the summertime, actually, sometimes. And sometimes in winter time, I really love to eat ice cream. And I think it's because what you said, that cold food actually makes the body produce heat. So as I say, if you eat warm food, the body have to cool it down. So yeah, so you can get a little boost in circulation by doing that actually. So that is very cool. So what I have done now, I have mashed this together. So it's like a sticky dough here. And as I said before, you can use a food processor if you want, but no, we make it this way today without without machines. So I will just place this in our glass here.
And another treat that we found is we actually went to a raw vegan restaurant in Rome called Ecru, and they had a tiramisu. Of course, we had to do our research first, and they had a raw vegan tiramisu there. So we got a raw vegan tiramisu, and then they allowed us to keep the glasses that they made it in. So we actually have authentic Italian tiramisu glasses that have been approved by the restaurant there. So what we're doing today is doing a triple layer. The bottom layer is typically a raw vegan, or a tiramisu is typically a cake soaked in espresso. And we're leaving out the coffee. We could do a cold pressed coffee, but I'm also very sensitive to caffeine. So we're doing a caffeine-free version. And then from then on, we found that there's all kinds of different creativity that we can use. We actually had a raspberry tiramisu that did not have any chocolate in it whatsoever. So we're doing kind of a combination of the different tiramisus. But the main part of a tiramisu is that it does have a thick cake layer on the bottom, and then it has a cream layer on top. Sometimes there's a chocolate syrup layer, and it's always dusted with chocolate powder and even coffee beans up on top. So this is our first layer. I'm going to start on the second layer and the third layer and the fourth layer because, as I said, we're doing an Italian flag tribute. So we're going to do 3 different cream layers.
Yes. So what I do now is that I really press this into the bottom. So it's no air in there, so it's more like a cake in the bottom. And wow, it really smells delicious. We're sitting quite down, so we feel the smells very good here, and the bananas also smell very good. And that is because the bananas is ripe. It's very important to use ripe bananas when you make raw food recipes, because unripe bananas have a type of astringent and a little sour flavor actually. And that sour flavor, I have noticed that doesn't go together with the chocolate actually, because it will kind of dilute the chocolate flavor. So ripe bananas is important, and that is also easier for the digestion, and it tastes so much more better. I mean, we can have it as a sweetener when we have ripe bananas, because ripe bananas is actually sweet.
And I've seen raw vegan tiramisus that typically will use cashews, macadamia nuts, or some sort of like high fat, heavy nut. So I'm actually on a challenge right now to see if I can reduce the amount of fat that I eat in my diet to a more appropriate level. So I've been doing gourmet raw foods for a very long time. In the beginning, my body was much more resilient to being able to eat large amounts of cashews. Cashews, of course, having high protein content, but also a high fat content. But recently I've been noticing that if I eat a lower fat diet, and if I stay away from the nuts and instead substitute seeds and sprouts, I actually have a lot more energy because my liver is not doing as much work in order to digest the foods. So that's why you may wonder, why are they using bananas here? The other reason is because we really can't puree the cashews and the macadamia nuts without electricity, and that's our challenge this month. So I'm really just mashing the banana with a fork, and we're going to be doing a white layer with some shredded coconut. So the shredded coconut, we found this in one of the organic stores near here. Coconut not being a very Italian ingredient, but it is fairly close to the tropics, and so we can get coconut, and we've been getting mangoes. The mangoes are amazing here from these these subtropical and tropical areas. Yeah, if you could smell this mango, whenever I walk into the house after we go on our adventures, sightseeing or going out into and looking for different fruits to eat, that's the first thing I do is I walk into the house and I smell the mangoes here. Chef AJ, have you ever had a mango that just smells so floral that you just you just want to smell it all the time and don't even want to eat it.
I love to smell my food before I eat it. I know that's how you know if it's going to be good. And that's also how you know if it's not good. You gotta, people say we eat with our eyes, but I think we eat just as much with our nose.
We do, yeah.
I mean, our kitchen smells just fantastic. These mangoes, and we have also actually have some melons that also smells fantastic. So when you come into the kitchen we have here, it's just like an explosion of different smells, and sometimes it also smells garlic. Who knows? So yeah, it's really fresh. It smells everywhere.
So I've got my white layer done, and I'm going to do one banana per layer. This is going to be my red layer, and then I'm going to do a green layer. Actually, let me do the green layer first, because the red layer is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So we have a video that we did where I walked out and I found some dragon fruit, some prickly pear cactus right off of the cactus, and this was when we were living in Ostia for a couple of weeks. And so Ostia is is that old Roman town, Roman port town, and there was quite a bit of importing of, during the Roman times, they would import all these palm trees and cactus. So I don't think cactus, just like in California, I don't think cactus is native to there, but you can literally walk down the sidewalk and get cactus fruits right off of there. But I found out the hard way, you should wear gloves when you're picking prickly pear cactus fruit, because I was picking the needles on my fingers for hours afterward. We even had the needles in our lips and everything. It's actually fairly painful and itchy to have that.
I remember I told you, I warned you before, but it's something you just have to try, because I mean, when you look at this fruit, you can't imagine that it is callus on here. So you really just have to try it, but because it's so delicious. I tend to actually take it with my hands. I know how hard it is, but I do it that way because it's worth it, because the fruit can be so delicious.
The fruit is really delicious.
Yes, it really is.
So here, this is our natural food coloring. This is barley grass juice powder. So it's not barley grass powder, it's barley grass juice powder. So there's no fiber in here. It's has a lot more flavor. So I'm just going to add this. I want to make this really green because the Italian flag has a really bright, really dark green on it, and it has a nice dark red. So again, just mashing it with a fork. And I use all kinds of different food colorings. I think the last time I was on your show, Chef AJ, I used dragon fruit powder when I made a sweetened cucumber candy dessert. I like blue butterfly pea powder, and I think you use that too, right?
Yeah, and blue spirulina too gives a really cool blue color. And one thing I have to mention also, if you don't have barley goosegrass powder, you can use with whatever green powder you want. Spinach would work perfectly. You can make like juice of spinach. Yeah, that would be perfect. Or spinach powder, or maybe spirulina. Green spirulina is a little bit kind of too blue, I guess, but yeah, also wet grass powder. Take what you have and play around. But I have found that barley goosegrass powder is very delicious in desserts because you have a salty flavor and not like bitter and vegetable flavor of it. So it works very well in desserts actually.
And we used turmeric earlier.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah,
turmeric for the yellow color.
Turmeric if we want yellow color, but today we want Italian flag. Yeah.
So I'm on my last banana here. This is going to be the really fun one because I get to try to open this this prickly pear cactus fruit without getting any needles in my fingers. So I'm going to try to use a fork and see if I can slice it open. So again, just mashing the banana here. This is probably a recipe that you can do with the kids too, because there's no machines involved, and it's kids just love preparing food. I have two stepkids; they're 16 and 18, and that's how I got them to start eating raw vegan foods. I invited them in the kitchen and asked them to start playing around with the food, and so kids are a lot more apt to eat the food if they help prepare it. And this is a really fun one because I'm mashing it with a fork. I mean, kids love playing with their food. So
you can save some banana pieces also if you want, like lady finger in there also. If you so you can put some banana pieces in there too.
Oh, let's save some. Yeah.
Yeah, we can save some and do that. Yeah, that would be fun. We actually don't need everything because we have that fruit too. So So I put some at the side, so we have the lady fingers too.
Yeah, so
The banana fingers.
so typically tiramisu, if it was certain tiramisus will have lady fingers, which is like a a baked dessert inside it. So we're going to use some of the bananas to mimic that lady finger.
It just come to my mind that bananas actually look quite the same, not the same, but in color. It would be good, and some texture in there. Let's try out.
Right.
I love to be spontaneous when I do recipes.
Look at that beautiful color of the pitaya. Our camera isn't as good to pick it up, but it's got this really bright red color to it, and it has some seeds in it. So we've been kind of playing around with this prickly pear cactus fruit, and the seeds are actually really nutritious, right?
Yeah, I mean the seeds. I think they come out pretty the same as they come in, but you can eat them. I mean, they are not dangerous or so. You can take them out if you want. You can eat them if you want. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But if I eat like lots of prickly pear, or you call them dragonfruit or cactus fruit, yeah, you maybe want to take out some seeds, because otherwise you'll be chewing. So yeah, but we just have for some coloring, so it doesn't matter, and it can actually be nice with a little texture in the tiramisu too. Yeah.
So I think we're almost done preparing the ingredients. So we've got the red layer, the green layer, and the white layer, and then Victoria's going to start assembling them into our tiramisu glasses.
Nice. Ocean, there's a question about something you said about sprouts being hard on the liver. They wanted a clarification.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant nuts that are hard on the liver. I've actually replaced nuts with sprouts because sprouts are very easy on the liver. And I can certainly talk about that a little bit. So the liver is involved in digesting fats. If you're on ketosis, for instance, your body is digesting body fat, very stressful on the liver. The liver produces ketones whenever it digests fat. But the liver is responsible for digesting fat. So the stomach and the liver work together when you're eating something that has overt fats in it, like avocado. I know we're oil-free here. I've been oil-free for quite a while. And you're a big proponent of doing oil-free. And that's because we don't need to stress our liver, right? Our liver has plenty of work to do. It's a filter for the body. The healthier your liver is, the more calm you'll be. So the digestion of nuts does involve having to deal with those fats. It involves a stronger stomach acid. So early in my days, when I was working at Giuliano's and I did some of my own recipes, it was very popular for these recipes in the early days of raw food to involve lots and lots of nuts, macadamia nuts being the big one. And I found it very easy to gain weight, and it wasn't really serving me that well to eat these nuts because it was a very it would take a lot of energy to digest it, and I would actually feel tired after eating. So now I use sprouts. Sprouts are a low-fat way to get the amino acids. It's what I was looking for in my nuts, was to get the protein. Now I'm more using seeds. I use nuts very sparingly. We are using soaked almonds in this recipe, but sprouts are the way to go. Sprouts are not hard on the liver. So I'm sorry, I may have misspoke there. So.
No, that's okay, because it's funny. I had Dr. Graham on the other day, and he said, like, we eat the same, except for I eat starch and he doesn't. So we actually have more in common than raw vegans that eat a lot of nuts and a lot of oil and a lot of agave, because that's a whole different way of eating.
Yes, yeah, and I started off using a lot of olive oil as well, and I never really was that sensitive to olive oil. We get excellent olive oil in California, of course. Here, as we're visiting Italy, we've been exposed to a lot of olive oil, but I just one day I just thought, hey, this is an expensive ingredient. Why don't I just try cutting it out? And so I used up the last of the olive oil that I had in my kitchen. I was using it on my salads, and I was putting it in my pestos. Almost any opportunity I could use olive oil. And I've actually had a lot more constant energy, because I think oil it's empty calories. It doesn't help build muscle. It is excellent for the skin. So I use coconut oil on our skin, olive oil. Victoria uses sesame oil sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think oils are more appropriate for topical use, but it really depends on what stage you're at in your diet. So if you're still using oils and you don't see a negative effect from them, I don't see anything wrong with that, but there may become a time when you might want to cut the oils out, because that is a concentrated extracted food. It lacks the fiber. And so if I am going to eat oils these days, I'm going to eat them when they're encased in fiber, and that means the whole foods plant-based diet is really working for me, where I try to eat the whole foods and limit the amount of concentrated fats that I eat. Well, this is looking good, Victoria.
Yeah, so now I lay out the white layer too, as for the tiramisu here. So yeah, and then we have the pink layer on top.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can you move this out of your way?
Yes, do that.
There's your red light.
Thank you. So let's see here.
I'm actually going to snack on this dragon fruit. It's so sweet. So we found orange dragon fruit. We found red dragon fruit here. It's actually prickly to our cactus fruit, but we were hiking at a place called Bugiano Castello, which is about 10 minutes from the Airbnb that we're staying at. We're staying in a town called Pistoia, which is very close to Pisa, about 45 minutes from Pisa, 45 minutes from Florence. And just walking around all the ruins here, we went to Ostia Antica, which is near Rome, and we've found so many edible foods here in Italy that I am actually thinking we need to come back at some point. Yeah. when different fruits are in season. But we found mint, we found miner's lettuce, mallow, dandelion greens, all kinds of different versions of the dragon fruit, many different olives. Tomatoes, we found figs growing, but we didn't find any ripe figs. I think we missed the season for figs. And then, as we mentioned before, we found some persimmons, like little miniature wild persimmons. And it's really fun to go hiking in the mountains because this is what they grew in Italy in the 14 and 1500s, when they lived in these castles. The castles are still standing. They were very well built, and for the most part, they're turned into small villages and apartments. And people take a lot of pride in their gardens here. And we've noticed succulent gardens and tomato gardens, olive groves everywhere. And that's something that I've really found just endearing about Italy, is that living in California, that you don't really have that 600 or 700-year-old tradition of growing fruits and vegetables. But here, there's quite a bit of pride in Italy in making sure that there's quality food.
Wow.
Yeah. Really.
I bet they can't imagine, though, meaning traditional people that live in Italy or chefs at restaurants, that there are people that just don't eat olive oil or even think it's healthy. I bet they are surprised at that.
Yeah, and we found it's kind of like when I visited Costa Rica, and I noticed that people in Costa Rica did not drink the high-end coffee that we associate with Costa Rica. In fact, a lot of times I saw people actually drinking instant coffee. And I think the same goes here in Italy, is that we've noticed many of the houses have olive groves, and it's most likely a major source of income for people who are living in Italy, is that they will sell the olive oil and use that in order to live on for the rest of the year, because the olive oil here is fantastic. I mean, the flavor of the olives here is incredible, very peppery, and just varies from region to region and from garden to garden. So that's our theory, is that even though people may not be using the olive oil here and may not be using it heavily, it's almost like, it's like money, right? They're growing money and they're producing high quality olive oil and selling that, and then using that to buy other fruits and vegetables or subsist on that. So at least that's my theory so far. The olive oil is like gold here, so you don't want to drink the gold. You want to make sure you sell it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's so true.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, we were waiting for it. Go ahead and ask the question.
Well, Elizabeth, oh my God. Well, you have to talk so I can see it.
So here we have the Italian flag tiramisu, and we have one little step left, and that is the cacao powder on top. But as I said before, we use actually carob powder today. So what I will do is that I will use this little tea bag, so it doesn't get like lumps here. So I have my carob here, and I will just carefully place carob powder into the tea here, into the teacup, and then I will have it on top here. So that is the little extra, I think.
Now, there's another variation on this, which we're actually trying to experiment, because we did the tiramisu earlier today. is if you do this recipe, try freezing it, and you can have a really nice frozen tiramisu. It's like a banana ice cream. So we have one in the freezer right now, and then pop it out, and you can have a really nice frozen dessert based on this. But we're hoping that people try it. We'd love to hear some feedback about, are you able to find dragon fruit where you live? What variations are you using? But make sure you have some ripe bananas, and then make a banana cream. Another variation that we wanted to try was using vanilla. So we have some vanilla here that we could scrape the seeds from the center of it and put that and make the center cream have some vanilla in it. But also with raw vegan food, we're not baking it. So if you are using a concentrate, make sure that you're using non-alcoholic vanilla extract, which is usually based on glycerin. And because in cooking, the alcohol would normally burn off, but you definitely don't want this to taste like alcohol. Well, maybe you do, but we don't drink. So we're making sure this doesn't have any alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can find this fruit, you can have like beetroot in there, beetroot juice powder, or a little bit of beetroot juice, or even dragon fruit powder, also the pink one, the pear powder. So so you eat it you eat it with a spoon. So we will enjoy this for breakfast tomorrow. So I think they will be really delicious when they sit also overnight. So
yes.
Yeah, so this is a little luxury breakfast we will have tomorrow. So so beautiful.
So that's our recipe. We have banana tiramisu, Italian flag style, made with fresh ingredients from Italy.
Yes, exactly.
So, it's incredible, first of all, that it's raw, but then it's low fat, and that you didn't use any equipment to make it. That's it's just amazing.
Yep, just our fingers.
Yeah, exactly, just our fingers. And it can look very simple, but it's actually a very it's very good recipe, because we have different textures, and we have also different kind of flavor combination. I mean, we have the dragon fruit powder, dragon fruit, the fruit, and then we have texture from the almonds and the texture from the coconut. So it's like 3 different textures in there, plus all the creaminess and the cakiness from the bottom. So I think it's a very balanced recipe.
That is amazing. Elizabeth said, is there anything you can substitute for bananas? And I get that question a lot, but I don't know a sub for bananas.
I mean, you can take mango, for example, or maybe persimmon, but you don't get the Italian flag if you do that. But it can be a very good substitute, actually.
Yeah, we actually had a raspberry tiramisu where it was just raspberries. So a little trick if you don't want to eat bananas. I don't have a lot of bananas in my diet. Victoria does eat bananas because she's sponsored and she gets them for free. So it's a big part of her diet. But any fruit will work on here. We have these amazing mangoes. I think there's actually one behind us right here.
Yeah.
So you could take a mango, make sure it's nice and ripe. This one smells wonderful. And mix it with a little bit of psyllium husk powder. That's one of the tricks that I teach my students. Psyllium husk powder will turn almost any fruit into a jelly or a jam. So if you want to use blueberries and raspberries, and we actually have shredded coconut in here. So you could certainly do like a coconut layer, get some fresh coconut meat. That might be a good substitute. Puree the coconut meat or mash it up with a fork and use that for the white layer. And then the red layer could be raspberries, and the green layer, you don't have to make it an Italian flag. You put an orange one in there and using mangoes. So almost any fruit will work in here. And then again, for the bottom layer, we used almonds and dates and a little bit of raisins. But of course, you could use sunflower seeds if you like, if you don't want to eat nuts. So it's a very versatile recipe. And the idea is that you're just going to have fun with it, make a really nice layered dessert, freeze it if you'd like, and just lots and lots of fruit.
Yeah, and also, if you don't want to use bananas, you can also use nuts or seeds. But that would be a little bit more higher in fat, but it still works very well. I mean, the tiramisu with raspberries that we got from Ikru, the raw vegan cafe here in, no, it was in Rome. Yeah, in Rome. Yes, that was made of cashews. So they mixed cashews. I think that it was sweetened with was it agave or something? I don't remember, but it tastes like agave. And then it was raspberries, and they made like a cream with that. Maybe something more Irish moss or coconut oil. I don't know. I mean, I don't have the recipe. They have their secret recipe, of course. So that's we got this in this type of cup, and it was a raspberry tiramisu that was, oh my god, it was so good. So you can make tiramisu in so many different ways. Actually, even if it's raw vegan, you have so many different variations of it. Yeah.
Incredible. I hope you'll take that to that raw vegan restaurant and offer it to them.
That would be a good idea. We are 5 hours away, so that's a problem.
Yeah, we'll most likely eat these it's actually fairly late here because we're on Italy time.
Yeah.
We'll probably eat these for breakfast tomorrow, but maybe we'll take them a picture of it because they love it.
Take a picture and put it on, at least put it on your Instagram so we can see it. That's amazing.
Yeah, of course we will. And we will go back to Rome on Friday. So maybe we have some time and can go back to that restaurant and tell them about our version and see if they want to see the live show afterwards and maybe get some nice feedback. Who knows?
You guys, this was amazing. Thank you. And guys, if you want more of their recipes, click the link, check out the bundle, and you have 2 new books, one from Chef Ocean, one from Chef Victoria. Thank you guys so much. This was a fabulous, really interesting presentation.
Of course. Thank you, Chef AJ. Always happy to be on your show, and please let us back again.
Yeah.
We do another Iron Chef. Maybe you could go against Victoria next time.
Oh,
wow, that would be
sounds
so
great.
cool. Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah,
That
they
would
are
be really
very
fun.
fun.
Thank you guys. And ciao Bella.
Ciao, Bella.
Ciao.
Thank you. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow as we continue with the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle Week when my guest is Dan McKinnon. He's going to be making something I can't even pronounce, but it's some kind of noodle. Take care.